Hi everybody, today I'm going to demonstrate a simplified way of making traditional POPIAH, which is fresh spring roll in the without frying. It's a fresh skin wrapper, and I'm going to show also how there's an easy way of making the POPIAH wrapper. First of all, we need to show you what ingredients I'm using. We've got the cabbage, which I have sliced up, and also the carrots that I've grated, and then I have here cooked prawns that I have cut up into little bits, and also the Chinese sausages in the packet, but again I've also cut them up into little bits. Okay, and then there's the omelette. It's just omelette, egg beaten with a little bit of a pinch of sugar and a bit of pepper, and we just fry it like you do with any omelette. And here we have some baby jam lettuce, which is going to be used for the last minute bit of plating up. And of course we've also got the bean vermicelli, which we have soaked till it's softened and then cut into little short bits like that. Okay, and so what we're going to do is we're going to cook this into a filling. Traditionally it's all done separately and you take a bit of everything as you wrap, but what I'm going to do today is I'm actually going to mix everything together so it's easier. You don't have to sort of fiddle around with all the little ingredients bit by bit. Okay, so we're going to start now by cooking the ingredients for the filling first, and then later I'll do the spring roll wrapper for you to have a look. Okay, so what we do now is we start by sauteing a bit of oil in the saucepan or a wok, and then we put, of course, the garlic, and cook the garlic a little bit. About 2 teaspoons of chopped garlic. Till it's just slightly golden brown. Okay, then what we do is we tip the chopped sausages in, because and that's also to render the fat out of the sausages and make it more aromatic as well when you fry it, when it's fried. So we'll leave that for a little bit and let it render for a little while. So normally what is done, if you want to do it really the long way of doing it, which is the original way really to do it, is you cook this and then you take it out and separately and put it on on a plate, and then you have the eggs, you have the prawns, and you just take a bit of everything to make the roll. But now I'm just going to combine everything to make it a lot more easier. Just give it a little bit of a toss, and then we add in the shredded cabbage. The original recipe really calls for, instead of, I'm using cabbage in place of what we call yam bean or the jicama, which is the Mexican, I think the Mexican turnip, or the Mexican turnip, or I actually have always thought that it's an Asian vegetable, the jicama or with the yam bean, but it appears it's actually a Mexican root vegetable, but that's very seasonal here in Australia, and you can only get it during winter time usually in selected stores. So in place of that, we use cabbage, and in fact all the restaurants use cabbage because the yam bean is actually quite, even when available, it's very, very expensive to buy. Okay, I've put in a little bit of salt, just maybe about, a quarter of a teaspoon, and then just for flavoring, maybe just also about a quarter of a teaspoon of the chicken stock powder, just for added flavor. Okay, so the last thing that needs to be actually cooked together with this, almost like a hot salad, is the vermicelli. Vermicelli is to give it extra body, but also at the same time for it to help soak up all the juices so that it won't when you wrap it, the wrapper won't break because of being soggy from the juices. So the vermicelli is added in to soak up the juices, just to help it not break the wrapper later on when we use it as a filling. A little bit of fish sauce to flavor it, maybe about a tablespoon. Now the vegetables and the vermicelli is all cooked and mixed well together. So lastly, we add in the chopped up or finely cut prawns or shrimps, cooked shrimps, and the omelette that's also been cut. And then again, just toss them to mix them well. Okay, so the prawns and the omelette's in and mixed well. So the filling is all now ready to be used. I'm going to take this into a bigger receptacle to let it cool down faster. You can cook this way ahead, and then you don't have to do that if you cook it way ahead, because it's really just for cooling. When it's too hot, the spring roll wrapper will break easily, so we try not to use it when it's too hot. If it's warmish, it's okay. We are now going to do the crepe or wrapper for the spring roll, and the recipe for this calls for 200 grams of just all-purpose flour, and 300 mils of water. You mix it into a batter with a bit of salt, and that's all you need to do for the crepe. Going back to the filling, which we've just cooked with the vegetables, the amount of meat and sausages, or the sort of meat that you use, whether you want to use the prawns or if you want to use pork or chicken, it's up to you. But we will prefer it's preferably white meat more so than red meat. We try not to use red meat for this wrapper because it's actually a very mild flavored dish, and we don't want the meaty, or I would say the gamey meat, to overtake the flavor of the vegetables. Okay. For the wrappers, it's essentially, as I was saying, 200 grams of all-purpose flour and 300 mils of water. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 2 recipes today. So I'm going to double the amount of flour. And half a teaspoon of salt. And then we'll have to measure the water. Okay, so now I'm going to pour 600 ml of the water into the flour and mix it well. Now don't forget, I'm doing double the recipe. So if you're doing just about 12 to 15, just 200 grams of flour and 300 ml of water. Okay, but this is double the amount I'm doing. And even with the filling, you can do half of what I've done for one recipe. Make it into a smooth batter. So don't pour all the water in at once, just pour enough for it to mix well into a smooth batter, and then add the rest of the water in. So you can see I've added all the water in now. There's actually not a very, it's not doughy, it's actually quite a runny batter. You can see now it's actually very smooth and silky looking, no more lumps. Okay, that's how it should be. So we're going to start making the pancakes or crepes or wrapper, whatever we call it. And I did was I just drizzled a little bit of oil into the crepe maker, right? And you really just want to rub it, especially only for the first piece. No excess oil, just to prevent it from sticking. But we don't want any excess oil because otherwise it won't stick. So you clean the pan of excess oil. Okay, and then what you do is, this is the fun part. Heat the pan on kind of low, between low and medium. And so I've got mine on 3. On an electric stove, okay? And then what we do is we use the brush. I would preferably use a silicone brush because then it washes off a lot better when you want to clean the brush, but I don't have one at the moment, so I'm just using the bristle ones. It will take a bit longer to wash, but it works well too. See how you just coat it. Don't worry if the first piece don't turn out, because usually when you do things like that, the first piece don't really quite work out as well, and because I guess the pan needs a little bit of seasoning. So you just paint a very thin coat of batter. You can control the thickness a little bit. So if you think a certain part of it is too thin and might break, you just paint it a little bit thicker. So that's it. You can see it's actually not, you can still see actually the base, the color of the base of the pan, but that's okay. So you're going to test to see, okay, it's coming off quite easily. And then what you do is you just take it, flip it for a little bit, just very quickly, just so that the other side cook a little bit, and that's it. And then you do the second piece. Then you don't need to oil the second piece again, okay? Again, so you do the same thing over again until all your batter's done. Let me just show you how thin it is. You can actually see my fingers through it. See? And it's actually quite elastic. It's quite elastic in texture when it's done. That's how it is. To serve now, I'm just doing one to show you. Take one out, put it on the plate, and let me just do this one first. And then you put a bit of the filling in there, and then all you have to do is bring this to the center and then try and push it back that way to make the filling, to firm up the filling so that it won't be really loose all over the place. Then you do that. And roll. That's it. So you get a fresh POPIAH or spring roll, and it can be eaten just like that. So now traditionally they actually put the lettuce into the wrapper and then put the filling on top. But I'm not going to do it this way because it makes the spring roll really bulky and it gets really hard to wrap. So what I'm going to do today is show you maybe the modern way of serving it. So I'm going to just put that on top of the lettuce, and you just wrap it around, and then what you do is I've made some hoisin sauce, and the hoisin sauce is just mixed it with, this is the hoisin sauce which I've got here, the bottle, which is quite salty. So what I've done is, you can add sugar, but I've added honey. You can add sugar or you can add golden syrup, but today I've used honey and mix it with that, and you just mix it to your taste. If you like it saltier, you just put less honey, but if you want it a little bit sweeter, you just put a little bit more honey. And so what we do is now is we just drizzle a bit of that over it. And if you want some spice, if you want it, some people like it with a bit of chili, and that's what you do. Then you just put a bit of chili sauce over it as well. And that's it. And then you just, this is more of a finger food, so you just hold it and you just eat it that way. That way. Here, have a try, Betty.